brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Mid-South Lumber, where they treat you like family. Locally owned and serving the residents of Bay County for over 45 years. See Mid-South Lumber for all of your DIY projects, including windows, doors, siding, lumber, and millwork. Are you building a new home? Bring your contractor in to Mid-South Lumber and meet with a member of their sales team to discuss your framing, siding, windows, and doors. Mid-South Lumber, the biggest little lumber yard in Panama City.
This is a public service announcement from ESPN Northwest Florida. Holland Hearts, LLC is a community-based private group transportation and excursion service. Their mission, serving our communities, businesses, local festivals, and supporting residents right here in the Panama City area. Holland Hearts offers group ride experiences for our veterans, schools, civic clubs, non-for-profits, and the chamber through community-based activities. They're currently seeking sponsorships for a fundraising feline field trip to the Bear Creek Feline Center, April 15th. Your donation allows a student or an adult to attend. Plus, the proceeds of this trip will benefit the Bear Creek Feline Center. It's a win-win, literally. Please consider sponsoring this event with a $100 write-off donation. Call 850-588-7515. That's 850-588-7515. This public service announcement from Holland Hearts, BearCreekFelineCenter.org, and ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WTOT, W271DM Mariana, WFieldQ Port St. John, Paula Hesse, ESPN Northwest Florida. Welcome to the house. It's time for the Afternoon Underdogs.
It's happening. Wow. It's on right now.
Opinionated and unfiltered. The hot takes, the rants, and the sports talk you crave.
Give it to me.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
What's going on, Northwest Florida? You're now riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida. I'm David Hayes, along with AG Adam Goff, Caveman Rick, and Miles Nash-Ashley. This is the Afternoon Underdogs. We've got a great show planned for you. We've got Greeny coming up next. Mike Greenberg, we're going to be promoting, he's going to be promoting his book, Got Your Number, the greatest sports legends and the numbers they own, along with Himbo. We'll also have the Real Fishing Report coming up next with Tim Braddock, or at 4:20 with Tim Braddock. We're going to have Steve Barnes on the line with us, Sam Peebles, all in the second hour. But let's get this thing started. We've got Mike Greenberg, the host of Get Up, the host of Greeny. We've got him on this air every single day from 2 to 4 p.m. So if you're thinking that your speakers are messed up right now, you're not. Hey, Greeny, Mike Greenberg, how's it going?
It's going really well. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. My first question, dealing with the book, Got Your Number, was it intentional for you and Himbo to keep the chapters short and sweet in this day and age of instant gratification and short attention spans?
Well, yes, but in an honest moment, I would tell you that wasn't the primary motivating factor. The primary motivating factor was the publisher said, if I wrote each chapter as long as I wanted to, the book would be about 1,000 pages long, and very few people want to buy a book that is 1,000 pages long. So it was really more good luck than it was more that than anything that led to what I think is a very digestible book. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, we take the 100 greatest legends, we assign the numbers that they own, and then with Hembo's research, I wrote a chapter about each one of them, and each one is like 500 words, so that's between 2 and 3 pages. So anytime you want, if you've got 10 or 15 minutes free, you sit down, you read 2 or 3 of them, you close the book, and then you come back to it the next time you feel like it. And I agree with you, that is I think, a way that a lot of people, particularly younger people, like to read today.
Greeny AG here. I appreciate you. We all appreciate you all coming on, and I can't wait to pick up a copy. I've got your number and check it out. My dad wanted me to tell you to keep your jacket on. Rogers will be a Jet. But what would you recommend to our listeners that are now realizing the importance of reading in life, yet they can't find something that really draws them in and makes them want to read more? And then what book or books would you recommend?
Well, so let's start by talking about sports history, okay? So for anyone, and look, if you want to be a really knowledgeable sports fan, or you want to, certainly if you want to be, I think, someone who covers sports or talks about sports for a living, then I think it is absolutely imperative to have an understanding of the history of sports. When I was a kid, I read a ton of sports history, and that's how I know everything that I know about sports. Now, could you imagine if you guys were ever to put on a political show and you were to hear the host or the commentator say, well, I don't really know much about FDR. He was president before my time. Like that would, right? You would never, that's a ridiculous thing to say. You would never accept that. Yet sports commentators say that all the time. Well, I don't know much about Jerry West. He was before my time. That shouldn't be okay. You should know the history of sports because that's the only way to put into proper context the things that are happening in sports today. So that's an excellent way, by the way, I find, for sports fans, particularly younger ones, if you have teenagers or even slightly younger than teenagers who don't think they like to read. Most of the time when people don't like to read, what they really don't like is the stuff that they're being made to read. So if they're sports fans, then they probably will enjoy reading books about sports history. I think our book would be perfect for them because it is a little bit about sports debate, which is so popular now. We made some choices of who deserves to own these numbers, and you'll agree with some and you'll disagree with others. But then it is all about all of that sports history in short, easily digestible chapters. So I think that is a good template for that. And then, if you're looking for other books like that, I mean, it really depends on the age and all of that. But there are a lot of people writing a lot of great sports books. My friend Mike Lupica, I know, has written a lot of really good sports books that are aimed at like a preteen audience, for kids who are 11, 12 kind of years old. And that's an excellent age because I think that if you encourage people of that age to read and to be enthusiastic about reading, then they'll stay that way for the rest of their lives. And I just think there is real value in that.
Great answer, Greeny. Caveman Rick here, man. What a pleasure to talk to you today. In writing this book with Hembo, what would you say was your most controversial number or topic that you guys had the most debate with, the toughest to argue about? Well,
so we had a real tough time with number 15. Let me explain for everyone listening exactly what the book is so they'll understand what I mean. One day, a bunch of us on the Get Up Show were sitting around, and the conversation turned to how many Hall of Fame quarterbacks all wore the jersey number 12. Joe Namath, Bob Greasy, Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, Ken Stabler, Jim Kelly, and then now Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, who will both be in the Hall of Fame, all wore the number 12. And someone said, well, sure, they all wore 12, Greeny, but who owns the number 12? And that's where the idea came. So we decided, I called up Hembo and I said, you're going to do the research and I'm going to do the writing, and we're going to decide who owns every number from 1 to 100 in sports history. 15 was a tough one. And I'm guessing, based upon the geography of where you guys are, you might have a guess of who he chose.
15.
15 down here is Tim Tebow.
Yeah, Tim Tebow.
That is who we chose.
Okay.
It is Tim Tebow, and I will tell you why. Because Tim Tebow's professional career, which I think was very complicated in a lot of ways, not because he wasn't a great player. Lots of great college players didn't turn out to be great pros, but because of the somewhat over-the-top nature of the coverage of it and all of the self-serving conversation that took place around him, of which practically none of that was his fault or doing, what I think that has done is obscure the fact that Tim Tebow, you could make a pretty good argument, was the greatest college quarterback of all time, and further, might have been the most beloved college player of all time. And so it is his career as a collegian for which he is in this book. It is his number 15 at Florida that is what we are commemorating here. The fact that his NFL career did not wind up going to become like some of the other great quarterbacks, the Tom Brady's and people like that. I believe the great college players deserved their own representation in this book, and he is one of two players that we put in strictly because of their great college careers.
So his time as a Jet had no weight to do with that or anything?
It did not, but I felt bad for him, to be totally honest with you. The Jets coaches had absolutely no interest in him. The Jets owner, like many others, was just intrigued by his celebrity and wanted to bring him in because of his fame. The coaches didn't want anything to do with it. They tried to make him into a personal punt protector, which, by the way, is not a thing. And because he is this kind of person, not only did he go along with it, but he tried to make it into something, and he gained all this weight. They fattened him up like a Christmas goose because he thought maybe he could try and be of more help that way because, and I've come to know Tim just a little bit working at ESPN over the years, he's just a genuinely great person. And he tried to do the right thing, and the wrong thing was done around him so many times during his career. This is a whole other conversation, of course, but right. I've always felt that he did not get a fair shake in pro football. Look, I have no idea if he would have wound up being a great winning player. I cannot sit here and say that I know with certainty that he would. I do know that, like everyone else, I watched that season in Denver, and I know that there was something a little bit magical about it. And I can't blame the Broncos for deciding, well, if we can go get Peyton Manning, I'm going to get him. No one would argue with that. But what happened was Tim Tebow was really never then given an opportunity to try and play quarterback in the NFL. And I feel bad for him in that regard because it's something he obviously wanted so badly, and I thought he had sort of earned a shot at it. And it didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. And look, his life has been wonderful and will continue to be wonderful, and he will be the first to say how much he got out of football, and that's all great. But I know what it's like to have a dream, and I can't imagine what it would be like never to have really gotten a fair chance at striving for it. And so I've always felt that Tim was done a little bit wrong by the NFL.
Hey, Greeny, it's Miles. I just want to know, what was your favorite part of putting this book together?
Well, so I don't know if you guys know Hembo, but he's genuinely the best. Hembo has been doing my research at ESPN for more than a decade. He was with us on Mike and Mike, and he's been with me ever since. And he's the best. So when I had the idea, there was no way I wouldn't have done this book without him. I couldn't have done this book without him. And so the way we did it was we sat down and we decided who was going to be the numbers. Who's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. We made all those decisions. And then he would go off and he would start doing the research, and then each time he finished an athlete, he would email it to me and I would write the chapter. And every time I would get one of those emails, without fail, my jaw would hit my chest. It would just drop open with astonishment at some of the stuff that he would dig up. I mean, the information that is in the book, it's just incredible. I'll give you an example. Some of it is just your usual statistical stuff, like great stats, facts, figures, that kind of thing that you're accustomed to hearing. He just gives you more of it than you will get anywhere else. But then there were all kinds of other really cool things that he found. I'll give you an example. Pele, the legendary soccer player Pele, he owns the number 10 in our book. In the late 1960s, there was a civil war in the nation of Nigeria. The African country of Nigeria had a civil war in which over 1 million people died. During that war, the two sides agreed to call a 48-hour ceasefire so they could all watch Pele play a game of soccer.
What an
he
impact.
literally inspired people to stop killing each other. That is, you show me another athlete who has done that. That's the kind of stuff that Hembo found. So when you say my favorite part of the book, it was opening up the email and reading that. And I had the same reaction you guys just did. My first reaction was, oh my goodness. And then I would sit down and write it. And so it was really fun. It was a wonderful experience. Writing the book was one of the real joys that I've had in my career.
With all the research Hembo's done over the years for you, do you think he could teach a sports history class?
Oh, sure. He could teach a sports analytics class. And someday I believe he will be the general manager of a Major League Baseball team. That's what he should do. It's what he wants to do. His understanding of history is incredible, but the research, he really has the most passion for is the analytics. Like, he is at the forefront of the analytics movement in sports. When they talk about the numbers geeks, he is the king of the numbers geeks. And that is the direction that sports are going. And baseball is his first passion. It's his real true love. So someday I think he is destined to go run the front office, certainly the analytics operation for a Major League Baseball organization, and maybe even become the general manager. That's I think what he is best suited to do, and I think someday he will do it.
Wouldn't that be a contradiction of interest, Greeny? You wanting to be the commissioner of baseball and then having a great friend of yours being the GM of a particular team, would that not work?
Well, if I ever actually do get that role, and he'll do analytics, all of that work, analytics work for Major League Baseball in general. And the longer I can keep him by my side, the longer I will, for sure. But he's also a person who is more than capable of doing stuff on his own. I mean, he just wasn't well known enough to have a book like this without having someone like me to write it. But he could certainly have done it on his own. I'm just lucky I had the idea and then I was smart enough to call. But what makes the book special is the extraordinary stuff that he found for us. I would promise every sports fan listening to it, if you read the book, and you tweet at me, at ESPN Greeny. Go buy the book right now. It's on Amazon. There's a special price on Amazon.com. It's called You Can Buy It right now. You read it. You tweet at me at ESPN Greeny, and you tell me if there was not at least one per chapter, at least 100 times that you're reading this book, that you don't think to yourself, oh my goodness, that is something I did not know. If that is the case, we will have a conversation about it, and I would like to see you get your money back, because that's what this book is for. And I'd be really curious to hear if any sports fan doesn't come away thinking that.
You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. I'm sure that you recognize the voice that you're listening to right now. We've got Mike Greenberg on the line with us. Greeny, ESPN host of Get Up and the NBA Countdown. They just launched the book on April 4th. Got Your Number, the greatest sports legends and the number they own. It's available, just as Greeny said, on Amazon, Disney Books, Barnes and Noble, and more. Since we're in the Masters Week, Greeny, give me a significant number for the game of golf.
So there are quite a few golfers represented in the book. I love golf, and so there are several golfers. The most famous golfer in the world now, of course, is Tiger Woods, and we gave him 97, and the reason is 1997 is the year that he won the Masters for the first time. Jim Nantz called it a win for the ages, and it really was. It was both from the perspective of his greatness as a player and also the importance of a person of his background winning that golf tournament at that golf course in that company. I think it's one of the most important events in the history of the sport, if not the most important. And then I also think that right now you could look at the modern history of the game of golf as really being divided up into two parts. Before Tiger won the Masters in 97, and then since. It became Tiger's sport on that weekend. So we gave him 97 in honor of that weekend. But we have several great golfers in the book, including Babe Dietrichson, who was, in many people's estimation, including mine, the greatest female athlete that our country ever produced in total. And golf was one of the sports in which she dominated in the early days of the sport. So she has a number in the book. Tiger has a number in the book. Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, several of the other greats, all-time greats, Sam Snead, Ben Hogan. There are quite a few golfers because golf is my favorite sport.
Greeny, that's awesome. Excuse me. So my friends and I, we used to play a game where we would have to pick one player from each team to have their jersey represented in our man cave. So just imagine that you have an infinite amount of space. And then I see your book come out, Got Your Number, and I thought to myself, I was like, that sounds really, really similar to the game that my friends and I play. So I wanted to get your take on that. Do you think that that would be a book-worthy thing to have, and obviously it's subjective, but, having one player from each team from any sport, do you think that that could work as a book?
Yes, I think it could. It's interesting because since this has done well, we've only been out a week, but we've already done way better than anybody forecast for us. everyone is asking me, do you have an idea for another one? And the truth is, it took me 30 years to come up with a good enough idea to write the first one. So I don't have another idea. That is, I think, a good idea. Who is the greatest player in the history of each individual sports organization, and then write up little brief chapters on them. You could include college. I think that would be really interesting. And some, some of them would be easy, of course, Michael Jordan with the Chicago Bulls and all things like that. But then I think particularly with the collegiate ones, you could have great debates and things like that over who would be the greatest, would Alabama be Bryce Young, who was the first quarterback ever to win the Heisman there? Would it be Joe Namath, who was the great legend who sort of started it all for them there? Would it be one of the great running backs or one of the great defensive players they've produced over the years, and on and on? I guess, would Tebow be the Gator? I think he would, as evidenced by the fact that we put him there. But they had so many great players, and on it goes. So, yeah, I do think that would be an interesting book. It would be a very big one if you tried to do it the way I'm thinking. But if you could find a way to narrow its scope a little bit, I think it's a great idea.
Hey, Greeny, what was your number as a kid growing up, and did you ever have a thought to include it facetiously in some manner with this book?
Well, my number is in the book, but that's because it was Joe DiMaggio's number. So my father grew up in the Bronx, New York in the 1930s, which is exactly the time when Joe DiMaggio was playing center field for the New York Yankees, who play in the Bronx, and his jersey number was 5. And my father's favorite player ever throughout every day of his life to his dying day was Joe DiMaggio. He loved Joe DiMaggio, and so whenever I had a number up to and including when I was doing Mike and Mike and we would throw out the first pitch at a game or something like that, I would always ask for the jersey number 5 in honor really of my dad as much as DiMaggio. And then when my kids were little, when they were playing sports, if they were ever playing in a sport where they were allowed to choose their own jersey numbers, they would always choose 5 in honor of their grandfather. So that was my number, and we did give Joe DiMaggio number 5 in the book. So I guess in that way, I did do exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that is awesome. One more before we let you go, and again, we really do appreciate you giving us your time and cannot wait to check this book out. Get on over to Amazon right now. They've got a deal on it. Go get Got Your Number, the greatest sports legends and the numbers they own. I was listening to a piece of your segment on the Pat McAfee show the other day, and so I wanted to ask you this question. What's more likely? I really want to hear you drop some dirty language on the Pat McAfee show, but what's more likely, you think, Lamar to be a Raven or Aaron Rodgers to be a Packer for 2023?
No, I don't think there's any chance Aaron Rodgers is a Packer. I think there's as close to 0 as you can possibly get on that. So the chances of practically anything else happening are better. I think the chances of Lamar Jackson being a Raven are, I'm trying to think of what odds I would put on it, maybe 30%, like maybe 1 in 3. I just don't know how this, I'm confused, guys, with how this is going to end. I keep asking the people that I have with me on Get Up every single day, and no one can give me an answer. How does this end? Like, if I have a dispute with you 3 guys, all right, so now I'm on one side and you're on the other, and I'm not going to budge an inch, and you're not going to budge an inch. How do we ever resolve that? Like, where does that end?
Separate ways.
And that's where I think they are. So you tell me, how does it end?
You got to go separate ways at that point because all the love's lost.
But I don't know where he goes. Is my point. By them, I don't necessarily just mean the Ravens. I mean the NFL.
Well, eventually somebody. Injury or something will happen where somebody will be ready, to make that step to go to the Super Bowl, and they'll need a quarterback. We've seen it happen before. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. We got rid of, Sam Bradford, to the Vikings, and flipped that for a first-round pick that ended up being a Carson Wentz down the road.
What I'm asking you is, if he is going to continue to insist on having a fully guaranteed contract that is worth over $200 million, I don't think he's going to get it. Not just from the Ravens, but from anybody. So either he is going to acquiesce, he's going to give in, or some NFL owner somewhere is going to give in. I don't just mean the Ravens. I think he is in a standoff with the entire league. And if he were willing to give on that, if he were willing to budge on that demand, then more than half the teams in the league would be lining up to try and get him, of course. he's infinitely better than than most of the other quarterbacks in the NFL. But the problem is he wants something that no team wants to give anyone. And I, for the life of me, don't really have a clear picture of how that is going to get resolved.
Yeah, Greeny, I'm at about 60% just because the Ravens still have that ability. So if he does acquiesce and he does relent and give in to his demands, the Ravens still have that opportunity to match that before they have to make a decision. So I'm at about 60% on that because I think you're right. I don't think the NFL caves on this. I think they're looking at it from the perspective of Major League Baseball with the fully guaranteed contracts, thinking that's not a slope that we want to start skiing down. And they're going to stick to, keeping Lamar where he, most quarterbacks are right now. And that's in terms of majority of guaranteed money, but not all.
Yeah. I mean, if he were to wind up there, then I think this thing would be resolved one way or the other in the blink of an eye.
Hey, Greeny, thanks so much for coming on with us. Look forward to seeing you on NBA Countdown. Get up. And thank you so much again for coming on, and cannot wait to order the book. I'm doing that as soon. Well, you know what? I'm doing it during the break. Greeny, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, fellas. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Greeny. Thanks so much, bud.
Mike Greenberg, man, what a pleasure. That is awesome. He always leads into our show. Of course, they're broadcasting it earlier, but we record it and have it going on from 2 to 4 p.m. And he also did, thoughts and prayers with Greeny as well, because he just got done having heart surgery just a week ago, I believe. So thoughts and prayers with him and his family as well. And he looks like he's doing great. But I really do want to see Aaron Rodgers win the AFC Championship, or the Jets win the AFC Championship, so that he'll go back on the Pat McAfee show, or he just doesn't become a Jet at all, and then we can get some cursing from Mike Greenberg. That would be pretty awesome. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Coming up next, we're going to have the Real Fishing Report with Tim Braddock.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The tradition continues.
That ball is going to be out of here.
America's team plays here.
Bombs away.
The Atlanta Braves are back and making a statement.
Ronald Acuna just clobbered one to left.
Listen to Atlanta Braves baseball in a rich audio experience live on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Here comes the thunder.
Sponsored by Goldberg Kia, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Mid-South Lumber, Stormore Potable Buildings, and Brock Pest Control.
My weather forecast for this afternoon, a blend of sun and clouds around 82 degrees and a south wind about 10 miles per hour. The water temperature in the Gulf, 71. Spotty showers at thunderstorms overnight near 68 degrees. There might be a few more showers over the Easter weekend. Highs generally upper 60s to mid 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. For ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
Signworks, a business serving businesses since 1985. Everything from signs and banners, vehicles and boats, magnetic and real estate signs, contractor signs, and much more. Signworks can do large format, full color printing too. Signworks, a real professional in the business world. Call Signworks at 785-8899. Signworks, 850-785-8899.
Hi, this is Todd from PCB Hobby on Back Beach. Advertising with ESPN Northwest Florida has been a wonderful experience. Their staff is very knowledgeable and friendly. I've been advertising with ESPN Northwest Florida for 9 months, and the results have been profound. Traditional commercials, plus being on the air Mondays with the Afternoon Underdogs, allows us to connect with customers and listeners in a unique, compelling way exclusive to ESPN Northwest Florida.
Get results for your business. Call ESPN Northwest Florida, 850-215-4468.
From Tyndall Air Force Base to the Hathaway Bridge, we're live and local. It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Yes, Yes, sir. We are back. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 Panama City, 102.1 in Mariana, and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. We just got off the line with Mike Greenberg. Make sure you head on over to Amazon for Got Your Number, the greatest sports legends and the numbers they own by Mike Greenberg and Hembo. Man, I wish we would have been able to have Hembo on
Hembo's
as well.
hilarious.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. But yeah, we've got now the Real Fishing Report with Tim Braddock with Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle. Tim, what's going on, my man?
Oh, just living the dream. How about you, Mr. David?
Yes, sir. Doing very much the same. Living the dream right
Great
now.
Friday today.
That's it, caveman. You got it right. We're broadcasting today from Studio F-150.
I like that.
I like that.
Maybe we could do a remote from there one time.
Yeah, right on the beach today. So this, you guys are always great fun and great company, but the view's a little better out here today.
I know what that's like.
Yeah. So let's get straight into the fishing. We've got a lot to kind of go over and be able to discuss today. Fishing early part of the week was pretty rough. Just about every captain I was talking to was talking about how slow it was. I mean, we talked about everything under the sun on reasons why that could be, but it's really started to pick up over the last 2 days. And I think even Caveman Rick got in on the activity, didn't you, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, earlier today I went out about 9:45 just around the corner from my house, and 10 minutes after I got there, hung into about a 26 and a half inch speckled trout, probably weighed about 6.5 pounds. The only bite I had in about the hour and 10 minutes I was there, and the only fish I caught, but damn, you know what? That's all I need.
Yeah, that was a good-looking fish.
Yeah, for around here, too.
Yeah, no doubt. That fish, when I saw it, we don't need your exact spot, obviously, but that fish was much darker in color. I'm assuming it was caught up in a backwater or some sort of bayou.
That's correct, sir. That would be correct.
Where a presence there's probably an area where there's a lot of grass around too.
Yes, and I happened to also see about 10 or 12 largemouth bass swimming around in the same area, along with handfuls of other mangrove snappers in the same area. So there's a good abundance of different species.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you went almost in somebody's backyard aquarium.
Yeah, I mean, like,
actually building one.
Watching the fish swimming around, it was kind of like that. And that trout that I caught, actually, just real quick, made a long cast. And when I got it right to where I was standing, there was a little ledge drop off there. And I don't know if people are familiar with fishing off a boat. If you catch like bigger freshwater fish like northern pike or muskies, you do like that figure 8 motion when you get kind of close to the boat in case anything was trailing that lure, just to see if anything's going to pick it up right at the end. Well, I was doing the similar motion, but I was jigging my jig, doing that same kind of figure 8 motion, and right off of that ledge is where that trout came up, right up underneath, and snatched that jig.
Well, what type of lure and jig were you using? I couldn't quite tell from your pictures.
It wasn't in the picture.
Was it a paddle tail?
It was a stinger tail grub that I happened to be using on an 1/8 ounce jig head. It was just a white, kind of like arrowhead, one of those shaped, jig heads you buy like at Walmart, fairly inexpensive. And it was probably about what size hook was probably on there? Probably like a 4/0 hook maybe on there, 3 or 4/0 hook. I would say attached to that jig head, and then that stinger tail grub is only about 3 inches long, 3.5 inches long.
Yeah.
So,
what color was it? White?
No, actually, this is the pattern that I pretty much love to use. I've been using it in this area for the last 20, 25 years. But the clear bodied with that salt and pepper flake on the inside, along with that chartreuse tail.
That chartreuse tail, they just about can't resist it.
Now, I think it looks like an L-wise, I think, with that little bit of green in there. And it's got the L-Y kind of look, and I think that's what helps get that bite a lot of times.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point, too, as far as fishing some of these brackish water areas. A lot of times there's bass present in these particular areas. Obviously, I'm located on the west end where the shop is, and Lake Powell is notorious for being able to catch speck, reds, and then bass out of the exact same spot.
I've caught pompano in there before.
Yeah, pompano, palmetto fish, Spanish, a little bit of everything. Once that pass opens up, there's no telling what comes in. So Lake Powell's a fun, kind of unique fishery for that very reason. But I will say 2 weeks ago I was out in Lake Powell, kind of on the north side where the water's much more fresh. I was out there with a jig head and a shrimp, and it was a fresh dead shrimp. I'm sitting there jigging along, trying to see if I couldn't find a redfish in that area. And something caught my eye, and it ended up being a largemouth bass. And I bet you I sat there, Caveman Rick, for about 30 minutes and just slowly, methodically pulled that shrimp along on that jig head. And after about, I would see him chase it every once in a while. And for some reason, after about 30 minutes, just sitting there pulling that shrimp right in front of him, he decided to gobble that thing down. But, it's important to remember that in a lot of these areas where we're saltwater fishing, we may be targeting trout or redfish, but sometimes there's some unsuspected fish that are in that particular area as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you just never know around here in the state of Florida. I mean, you could be in somewhat freshwater. I mean, we got bull sharks that go all the way up rivers too. So just be aware. Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff you can catch anywhere.
Yeah, we'll avoid the bull shark conversation going inland waters right now. And so let's talk a little bit more about the pier fishing. That's an area that we haven't given much attention over the past few weeks, but it's an area that is increasingly getting hotter and hotter, not only temperature-wise, but actual fish activity. And so last week they had a great week. We know the reports of the blackfin being caught, sailfish being caught, and the cobia are starting to show up as well. That's a question we get within the shop frequently, particularly this time of year, is, are the cobia here? And we can safely answer that question and say, yes, for sure the cobia are here. We just are seeing them in kind of low to moderate numbers. So we really feel that over the next 2 weeks, cobia fishing will be an area that, particularly the pier guys or the guys that are going to go out and cruise on a boat for a few hours will have much greater success. So, Rick or David, have either one of you ever caught a cobia?
I've hooked one at the pier before, but no, I didn't land it. I got broke off pretty quick, but that was the best I've ever done with a cobia.
Yeah, actually, it's been a long time. I'd say probably 12 years or so, but I was on a boat with my cousin and caught one out there in the Gulf.
Wow. David, do you remember what you were using for bait?
Absolutely no clue, my friend. No clue. If I had to, man, I'm trying to think back and remember that trip because in the same day I caught one of those, what El Mores, the
Remora.
Oh, Remora, yeah, the little shark suckers.
Fish.
Yeah.
Well, eels work real well on those brown clowns. Those cobia, you can catch those, or some jumbo shrimp. Squid work really well too.
Yeah, so they're following squid in right now. Squid is a primary bait or a premium bait to use. A lot of times you'll see a feathered jig. We'll take like a 2 or 3 ounce jig head, and it will have dyed feathers. We tend to like black and purples, as well as if that water's a crystal clear color, like a white and a pink, or a white and a chartreuse. Tend to do very well. The hooks are already set inside those jig heads. If you go to your local bait and tackle shop, they'll call them cobia jigs. We have ours custom made in shop from a guy out of Georgia. And one of the pro tips on being able to fish those cobia jigs is we like to take about a 2 to 3 inch strip of squid and tip it right off the end of that hook. And, cobia fishing's a lot of fun in the sense that if you're doing it on the pier, obviously you're standing up and spotting the fish. You're casting toward the fish. And that word toward is very important for those who haven't done a whole lot of cobia fishing, particularly on the piers, because when individuals see that fish, a lot of times they want to throw, right at the fish. And that's a bad place to throw.
Got to lead the fish.
You want to lead the fish. That's it. You want to kind of draw an imaginary line at about a 45-degree angle away from that fish, and then you want to bring that bait, back to it. And sometimes in the haste of trying to get your bait out there, you forget those little details, and you can blow a great opportunity to catch a great fish. And
hey, Tim, on when you're using these cobia jigs and with the squid tip, are you recommending a bubble at all, or just having a decent-sized leader?
No, I would have at least a 36-inch leader. There are pre-made wire leaders that a lot of manufacturers and local shops carry. My personal favorite is I prefer about a 60 to 80-pound fluorocarbon leader.
No doubt.
Again, 36 inches is the minimum length.
I'd go even longer.
For that. So, we do, in shop, there are times that we'll top shop. We'll put 50 yards worth of carbon over braid for guys that are both coding and tarpon fishing. So, you're talking about longer, what size? 36 inches is the minimum we recommend. So,
and Tim, talk about the hazards of after you land a cobia.
Yeah, cobia in particular, you've got to be very cautious with them. A couple things. Number one, that they are very strong. They're muscular fish. And cobia also have very sharp fins. And Adam, have you ever experienced the puncture from a cobia?
I have not. I was very well aware of it when I was on a boat and we caught a cobia. We were using a planer, and when we landed it, the guy that actually reeled it in didn't exactly know exactly what he had, and I kind of warned him. I'm like, you do not want to go near this guy's spine. Stay away from his mouth, stay away from his spine.
It's very bony, and it's very sharp. So, those two things, the sharp along with the hardness combined, can really mess up a shin or the bottom of a foot pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So, be very mindful of those areas. So, well, we have a little bit of weather, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of summarize the fishing forecast for the upcoming weekend. And we've got a few people here I've got to go see. So, overall, the fishing weather forecasted is to be unfavorable this weekend. Sunday looks like the best opportunity to get good weather, along with moderate seas and surf. The inshore bite is starting to pick up with the presence of bait becoming more frequent. Cobia are starting to be caught with some regularity. Tim's pick would be to go fish from the surf this Sunday evening with the intent to target pompano. It's best to get these pompano days in when you can, and while the fish are here in good quantities. Have a great Easter weekend, and be sure to get out there and enjoy tight lines. So, guys, I hope y'all get out and fish.
Word, I will.
Yes, sir. Hey, Tim, you have a great weekend, my man, and we'll see you here next Friday.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. See y'all next Friday.
See you, Tim. Great stuff, man. Thank you.
Tim Braddock with Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle. That was your real fishing report, live and local. And hopefully the weather, last week we were supposed to have a lot of nasty weather, and it never really came through till maybe late Sunday?
Yeah.
So we'll see. You never know.
I might get out there Sunday evening if you guys want to join.
I love it. It's time to play a little traffic jamming trivia. Give us a call, 850-215-6290, and we'll have the Braves update when we return.
But lately, some of my kinfolk have disowned a few others than me.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Atlanta Braves play here.
The Atlanta Braves won their season home opener with a walk-off. And Tonight, it's Game 2. Braves, Padres. Coverage starts at 6 on your home for the Atlanta Braves.
ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
By now, you've heard us talking about Tiger TV Pro. Hi, David Hayes from the Afternoon Underdogs, here to remind you about this incredible streaming service with over 6,000 premium channels. And the cost, you ask? $15 a month. Yes, only $15 a month. Every sports channel is available, including the ACC and SEC Network, the NFL, NBA, MLB, HBO, Showtime, and thousands more. For more info, go to our website at espnpc.com. Scroll down and click the Tiger logo.
Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, this is Tim.
Do y'all sell bait?
Yes, we seasonally stock live shrimp, live bull minnows, live sand fleas, live fiddler crabs, earthworms, night crawlers, crickets. We also stock frozen shrimp, sand fleas, mullet, squid, pre-rigged ballyhoo, bonita, stingray, cigar minnows, Boston mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and a few other miscellaneous baits. It's worth the drive to buy premium locally sourced bait from Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
If he doesn't start showing some motivation and stop wearing flip-flops to work, he might get fired.
I only have another week and a half here, and I have completely checked out.
Miles Nasty Lashley is part of the Afternoon Underdogs.
ESPN, Northwest Florida.
And we are back. This is ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 in Panama City, 102.1 in Marianna, and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. We are the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes, along with AG Adam Goff, Caveman Rick, and ML Miles Lashley. Man, what a show it has been to this point.
No doubt, man. What
Started
a great
off
day.
with Greeny, leading right into Tim Braddock with the real fishing report. Now it's time for the traffic jam and trivia. Who was the only player to lose in a playoff twice at the Masters? Who is the only player to lose in a playoff twice?
Not Sam Bennett.
At the Masters. It was not Sam Bennett because Sam Bennett's in his first Masters, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Ed Snead, Ben Hogan, Phil Mickelson, those are your options. 850-215-6290. Tell me who was the only player to lose in a playoff twice at the Masters. This is a public service announcement from ESPN Northwest Florida. Hall & Hearts, LLC is a community-based private group transportation and excursion service. Their mission, serving our communities, businesses, local festivals, and supporting residents right here in the Panama City area. Hall & Hearts offers group ride experiences for our veterans, schools, civic clubs, non-for-profits, and the Chamber through community-based activities. They're currently seeking sponsorships for a fundraising feline field trip to the Bear Creek Feline Center April 15th. Your donation allows a student or an adult to attend. So no, I'm just kidding. This would be awesome. I do want to go to the Bear Creek Feline Center one day, but plus the proceeds for this trip will benefit the Bear Creek Feline Center. It's a win-win. Please consider sponsoring this event with a $100 write-off donation. Call 850-588-7515. That's 850-588-7515. This public service announcement from Hall & Hearts, BearCreekFelineCenter.org, and ESPN Northwest Florida. What's going on in the world of baseball today, fellas?
Keeping track of my Reds versus Caveman's Phillies right now.
Yeah, my team's got plenty of time to still screw it up like they've been doing.
It's 5-2, top of the ninth. We'll see what happens.
Any thoughts on your first full week now from Thursday to Thursday on your Cincinnati Reds? I feel like it's a shame that we have to talk about this twice a week because Kyle Wright on Wednesdays and AG on Fridays, but here we are.
I mean, they've got 3 wins. It took them, almost 2 months to get 3 wins last year. So already seen improvement. I mean, they've got a lot of young blood up there. I mean, this season for me is kind of I don't want to say a cast off because I'm still going to be interested, but next season and the next 2 seasons are really going to be what I'm looking forward to. So more than likely, I'm more interested in trade deadline activity in terms of
Where Hunter Green goes, where Lodolo goes,
they're
where
staying. They're
Hey, the Phillies could use some pitching right now.
But what I'm saying though is the Ellie De La Cruz, is the Christian Encarnacion Strands, Matt McClain.
Vosler's not going to go anywhere.
Vossler's like the next Drury, I think, if he
Brandon
continues.
Drury,
So he could go somewhere if they call up, Encarnacion Strand. So it's an exciting time to be a Reds fan just because of all the talent that they've accrued. But it's also like, can we get 75 wins this year?
That's asking a lot. It's almost half.
I don't think it's asking too much in that division.
Okay.
In that division, I don't think it's asking too much. I mean, because you've got great starting pitching. The bullpen's going to get better because they've got some health issues in the bullpen. It's just whether or not they're going to be able to stay consistent. Do they have enough talent to stay consistent? So.
I feel that, and this is going to sound asinine, but the Cubs are still a pretty big question mark, right? They've started off
talent.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean by question mark. Going in is like, what are the Cubs going to do? But now they're kind of putting that question mark on. Maybe they're better than what people were going to give them credit for going into the season. Cardinals haven't looked
small sample size.
Right, we're talking about a week's worth of baseball here, but the Cardinals haven't looked, like we expected the Cardinals to. The Brewers have done essentially
Brewers are hot right now.
5-1, second best record in all of baseball, and really that's just because of a game's difference right now. Braves sitting at 6-1,
Pirates
or
playing well.
in the National League rather. But that's who I was getting to. I was building that up for the Pirates, who are right now in a battle of 7-7 with the White Sox, another one of the Chicago teams with a question mark around them, and this one not in the positive direction. But this was the most intriguing team to me. I don't want to say the most. It was one of the most bad teams, expected to be a bad team, but I was like, man, they've got a lot of veterans on the roster. You've got O'Neal Cruz, you've got Reynolds. Yeah, I mean, he started off. Ke'Bryan Hayes,
Santana.
Right, and then you bring in McCutchen, so it's like they brought in some pieces. Do I think it'll last? No, but to see them where they're at right now and the season, and they're not playing top-notch competition because the Red Sox are another team that's like, well, they could be really good or they could be really
One thing you need to look out for the Pittsburgh Pirates is if they're able to maintain, not keep improving, but if they're able to maintain what they're doing right now, and then they call up their catcher, Indy Rodriguez, who is going to be the next big thing for them. He might be a bigger prospect than O'Neal Cruz was at this point.
Yeah.
So if they're able to bring him up and he's able to, compete at the major league level, look out for the Pittsburgh Pirates because they will have enough pitching, young pitching, to compete in that division.
I like it, man. Let's get over to the phone lines. We've got Coach Olds on the line with us. Coach Olds, who was the only player to lose in a playoff twice at the Masters?
Ben Hogan.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Ding, 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 ding.
You are correct. We need to have the applause there in the background. Coach Olds, do me a favor, hang on the line, and Miles will grab your information from you.
No problem.
All right. As always, winner. Coach Olds, love having him take up our That Boot store and our rib cribs and our ESPN Northwest Florida t-shirts. He always gets the question right, man, and we appreciate our listeners. Let's get into our Braves update here, and we can continue on with some baseball talk. But the Braves last night beat the Padres 7-6 on a walk-off by the Braves shortstop, Orlando Arcia, who also hit a home run in the first inning of the game. He went 3 for 4 last night with a homer and 2 ribbies. Spencer Strider looking like he hasn't lost much from last year. Now that you would like to see him go at least another inning deeper, but we're to that point in the season where, hey, you get me 5 strong innings with 9 strikeouts. That's not too shabby. So he gave up 4 hits, 3 runs, 9 strikeouts as well. AJ Minter ended up getting the W. That was a wild game last night. This is the second 3-hour-long baseball game that I've been able to watch from the Atlanta Braves, and we've been, kind of going back and forth on the pitch clock, your thoughts on it, all that good stuff. And I want to reiterate this, I do not hate the pitch clock. I like the pitch clock. What I've said is that, going to a game kind of worries me a little bit if I'm going to drive 5.5 hours and then all of a sudden it's a 1-0 game and we were in the stadium for 1 hour and 53 minutes and, we get the text in, we'll go to batting practice and, take in the stadium. Well, I do that every single time regardless if it's going to be a 4-hour game or whatever. That's neither here nor there. My biggest concern was late game drama. Late game drama, is it still going to be there? And last night, with that Braves game,
there was late game drama. And meaning, I guess what I mean is, yeah, of course there's going to be late game drama, but is it going to feel like what it did in the past? And it did last night. And I really thoroughly enjoyed that game, and I also got to say I was excited when we got to the 6th inning and we had already crossed the 2-hour mark, and I was like, okay, this is going to be like a regular baseball game. So don't get me wrong, I love what the pitch clock is doing. I guess I'm still kind of iffy, but I know that it is in the best interest of the sport, and I like that aspect of it. And last night showed me that the late game drama is still going to be there. It's still going to have that same exact type feel to it. If anything, you add more drama and more pressure now, because these guys are going to be sitting there, and instead of thinking, there is no time to think. You just got to go.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in a mixed bag on the pitch clock, right? I'm like you. I understand the need for it, especially from a television perspective. For me, if you don't like the pitch clock, it's because of geography, right? If you're 5.5 hours away from Atlanta like we are, yeah, I don't like it. I don't want to drive 5.5 hours to go watch a Major League Baseball game, and 2 hours later I'm done. I'd rather go up there, enjoy my time, spend 3-4 hours in the ballpark, and if the game lasts 3-4 hours, it lasts 3-4 hours. I'm good. However, the little idiosyncrasies and the little nuances that we're seeing right now with, the pitcher was staring down the batter, but the batter got in too late. And then, or the pitcher was taken to.
Yeah.
Let's get it figured out how exactly we're going to police it before we start before we start changing the game.
I do agree.
Or it might depend on who's umpiring the game.
Well, the umpires are being consistent about it.
Yes,
and I can appreciate that. But what I don't want is, I don't want there to be a situation, and it's going to happen, where there's going to be, say it's the Braves Mets, right? It's bottom of the 9th. They're in Atlanta, and you've got Ronald Acuna up, bases loaded. Braves are down 3. There's
going up against.
It's two outs.
I was going to say Edwin Diaz, but that was
right. But there's 2 outs, and what happens? Acuna does get back in the box, but he's not looking at the pitcher, and they call strike 3. He's out. Braves lose the game.
And
that's going to be a pivotal moment in these rules changes, because you're going to have a direct correlation between the pitch clock and a subjective view from the umpire that changes the outcome of a game. And I understand there's 162 games, and you can't always pinpoint that this was the one game that they lost in the division.
What did the Braves beat the Mets by the division by last year?
That's my point.
Right, exactly.
Right? So that one game does matter.
Right.
They do. You hear that all the time.
You played
it's just one game. It doesn't matter. No, it does matter. It does matter. So there could be a game coming up in May.
If something comes down to a half a game, I know that you get 162, but that means that every single one of those do matter along the way. Like same way in the
That's a
NBA
large
and the
sample
NHL.
size. If you can't figure it out by 162 games, like them adding these extra playoff games, if you already don't know who the best teams are and who the teams that should be in the playoffs are after you played 162 games, then why the hell are you playing 162 games?
Well, look, were the Phillies one of the best teams going into the last month of the season last year?
Yeah.
Going into the last month of the season, they got hot at the right time.
At the end, yes.
Right.
And we weren't probably going to make the playoffs.
Right.
I don't got a problem with that. You know what? Because we stunk it up the whole pretty much season.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to get in, and we got hot at the right time.
And that's what I'm getting at, is not saying about the Phillies or about the Braves, because when the Braves won the World Series, they were not the greatest team from start to finish.
They got hot at the right time.
They got hot at the middle of August or so, or beginning of August. So I feel that, but at the same, to me, I guess
this is like,
I understand where you're coming from.
Go back to the Super Bowl. Everybody wants to talk, okay, the James Bradbury holding call. Okay, we can't really call that at the end of the game. You know what I'm saying? It's a bad call. Then you have all the people on the other side saying, well, I mean, it's a legit call, right?
Right.
Well, if it's a legit call and Acuna wasn't looking at the pitcher and that ends the game and the Braves lose, too bad, so sad. You didn't look at the pitcher.
And I
get that.
Get your ass off the field
but
and go home.
there's still subjection to this, right?
It's like the shot clock in basketball. Like they don't all. Well, it's a little bit better now because the whole backboard lights up.
It's like the play clock in football. How many times do we see it hit zero, and then they don't throw a flag for delay a game? Right. It's the same principle with the pitch clock. Okay, so the batter is in the batter's box, and he's tapping his bat on the plate or whatever, and the pitcher's ready to pitch, and then they call it a third strike. That's where I'm saying, like, in the ninth inning or later, do away with it.
No, you got to do it the whole time or not do it at all.
And I think that I am in agreement because I've had that same outlook with you, AG. I think I'm in agreement with Caveman on this one. Just do it the whole way through. What I would like to see changed is that there is no ruling for the 8 seconds. You're either in the box or you're not. When that pitch comes through, if you're not in the box, then that's the strike.
How about this? If you're not looking, who cares? If you're not paying attention, the ball goes right past you.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, so if it goes past you, like, oh well, buddy boy. That's
or if you get hit and you're not paying attention, oh well, you weren't paying attention.
But see, now then there's the problem though. What if, I guess, if they throw a ball and you're not paying attention, that's still negated against you. You know what I mean? Like, so there is that. They're doing the best they can, though, and I think at the end of the day, I think we can all agree on that. Even though maybe some slight changes need to be made after 162 sample size, 162 game sample size, it is going in the right direction.
I saw Jeff Passan say this just the other day on TV, okay? If you watch all 162 games of your prospective team, the team that you follow, you're going to get yourself basically 3.5 days back of your life that you didn't have just watching somebody fix their bands on their gloves and kick, like, dirt out of their cleats, or a pitcher, grabbing a rosin bag. That's a lot of time.
I feel that to an extent, but it's one of those, it's also kind of subjective. Like, what are you going to do with that 3.5 days?
I don't know either, but I'm just still saying, but just think about it. Everybody's so worried about time nowadays. And, and stuff like that. I mean,
so true.
3.5 days of your life over the course of like a 9-month season, that's a lot of time when you think about it.
It is, and we've gone over our time right here. We're going to take a quick time out. When we return, we're going to have Steve Barnes, senior writer for the RebelWalk.com, right here with the Afternoon Underdogs.
ESPN Northwest Florida presents
Wrestling Against Cancer, number 8.
Come see premier professional wrestling with the American Machine, Chief Little Bear, Mr. 850, and exciting women's wrestling with Raven Knight and T-Games. Saturday, April 29th, Wrestling Against Cancer, number 8.
Number 8.
At the Bay Haven Charter Academy in Panama City. Doors open at 5:30, bell time 6:30. Proceeds benefit Donna Duncan.
More information, ESPNPC.com.
My weather forecast for this afternoon, a blend of sun and clouds around 82 degrees and a south wind about 10 miles per hour. The water temperature in the Gulf, 71. Spotty showers and thunderstorms overnight near 68 degrees. There might be a few more showers over the Easter weekend. Highs generally upper 60s to mid-70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. For ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
Hi folks, I'm Tracy from Tracy's Fine Jewelry. Shopping for the perfect diamond can be difficult, but that's why I've trained my staff to offer you a stress-free diamond experience. Me and my I Do crew have 50 years experience, and we have more certified diamonds in stock at the best prices in town. So if you're tired of high-pressure salespeople, come see me, your diamond girl, and my I Do crew at Tracy's Fine Jewelry, because we don't work on commissions. We work for smiles and I Do's.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WTOT, W271DM Mariana, WVLQ Port St. Joe, Paula Hesse.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. He once ate an entire birthday cake before he realized there was a stripper inside. Miles Lashley is part of the Afternoon Underdogs. Weekdays 4 to 6 on ESPN Northwest Florida and the ESPN Northwest Florida app.
It is hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs right here on ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 in Panama City, 102.1 in Mariana, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm David Hayes along with AG.
Caveman Rick, and Miles Lash. I was going to do the acronym thing again. I was like, that's kind of old. We got Steve Barnes, senior writer for therebelwalk.com, on the line with us. First things first, Steve, thanks so much for getting us into contact with Doug Mosley. That was a lot of fun with that segment yesterday.
Well, I have to clean up a little bit of housekeeping there, because Doug was not a starving student at UWF. He was a starving grad student. He had already graduated from Culver Stockton College in Missouri, where he's from, which means it's in his DNA. He knows how to barbecue. And every now and then he would come over to the house and just bring like a slab of ribs, and it would just be outstanding.
That's a good friend to have. Yeah, no doubt. So he wasn't just surviving off of ramen noodles, is what you're saying.
Oh my God, this guy, he could probably take ramen noodles and make it to, some stuff you would get at, a KC barbecue place. But I mean, he was great at that. So
that is awesome.
So that's better than the smothered steak, actually.
Oh, I don't know. I think Doug he would probably contest you on that one, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, I tell you what. Now, this is something else I have to say in his favor was when my sister died. He was one of my first 5 calls, and within an hour, I think he called like 20 people who he just said, "Hey, Steve could use a call," and I mean, my phone was just blowing up. So that's how good a guy that guy is. And I mean, y'all tell me, it's like, yeah, you keep up with the Group of 5 stuff. Talk to him each week this fall, because it's his job. I mean, he's going to get 2 of those at the Boca Bowl, and he's the guy you need to talk to about the Group of 5, not me.
All right, we'll talk to both of you guys throughout the week, if that's all right with you. Speaking of smaller schools here, give me your thoughts on smaller schools, such as the example Hugh Freeze using UAB and Troy playing some of the bigger schools in the state like Alabama and Auburn. Give me your thoughts on that?
Well, Hugh Freeze made a monumental, stupid decision when he was at Ole Miss, but he's not a stupid man.
Gotcha.
And when he said that the other day, he's like, why don't we just scrimmage somebody else? And I thought, that's a good idea. And then he finally just went on and said, it doesn't have to be Alabama, Auburn. Why can't, Auburn do UAB and Alabama do Troy? And I thought, that's even a better idea. But then it really hit me. It's like, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do one weekend in Tuscaloosa and one weekend in Troy, one weekend in Birmingham, one weekend in Auburn?
Like a merry-go-round.
What you do is the big school, the Auburn and the Alabama, they're going to draw, 50,000 for a spring game anyway. You take the tickets, you take the parking, you take the concessions, you donate that to an Alabama charity. The next week, Alabama goes to Troy and Auburn goes to UAB. Well, what's going to happen is when Alabama comes to Troy, that stadium holds 30,000 people, but it's going to sell out. You're going to have every restaurant in town filled up. And what you do is you take half those proceeds and you send it to a charity, and the other half stays with a smaller school. So half stays with Troy, and it doesn't have to go to the athletic department. It can go to whatever, and at UAB it could go to the medical school. It could just do. It's just going to be a cash boom.
Not only the money,
people are going to love it.
The kids get the exposure too of playing these bigger schools where they wouldn't be seen and wouldn't be heard of, just playing against each other.
And the SEC network's going to cover them all.
Yeah, I was about to say ESPN would be stoked about having
them. Be there with bells on.
Yeah.
Right?
And let's face it. I watched a spring game last year. I'm not sure who it was. Golly, I think it might have been. It wasn't Georgia, but it was somebody. And they literally didn't have 44 players. They go out there for a first string and second string on each side of the ball. Well, if you're going to play somebody else, you don't need 44.
Yeah.
You just need 22.
Now, what do you think a bigger school like so with Alabama, they would make their proceeds essentially from the spring game when they were hosting it
at Bryant-Denny.
Yeah, I mean that's a charity game. They don't need that money.
Right.
They bring in enough. But at Troy, when Alabama came there, and let's face it, I mean, there's huge amount of Alabama fans in Dothan, Mobile, Pensacola, Panama City.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to get to Troy than to Tuscaloosa. They would get up there and they would just pump money into the economy. Let Troy keep half of that. And if Troy wants to put it in the athletic department, go ahead. If they want to put it into the nursing school, let them do that.
Yeah, and then with kind of the trickle down effect, now you're putting Troy and UAB in a better position, and now then in 5 years time or so, now USA, South Alabama can be kind of involved with that, and then you get into some of the HBCUs
I'd love to see
as
South
well.
in it, but no, I think the only downside of this is Auburn and Alabama might say, well, we're not going to go down there and give them money because they're going to, increase their facilities. And then the number 3 running back we want is the number 1 running back they want. And that kid visits both schools and he goes, well, I'm going to have to sit on the bench here, but I can come here and look at the facilities here. I can come here. And they would lose a kid. So I can see that Auburn and Alabama might say no. And, in Mississippi, I think you could do the same with Ole Miss, State, and Southern, but do it with the HBCUs.
Yeah.
Do it with Jackson State. Do it with the Mississippi Valley. Do it with Alcorn.
Yeah, I
mean, those programs really could use that money. Imagine if, Ole Miss went back down to Jackson where they used to play a lot of games against Jackson State. That place is going to sell out because it's easier to get to Jackson from Biloxi and Meridian and Macomb than it is to get to Oxford. Same thing with State and, Alcorn. Same thing with Southern and Mississippi Valley.
Do you think with Deion leaving Jackson State to go to Colorado, what's their popularity level? Or are they going to take a big hit to their popularity for next year? Whereas, for the last 3 years, we've heard a lot more about Jackson State than what we have in the past during the football season and during the recruiting season as well.
In about week 4, you're not going to hear about Jackson State at all. They're just going to drop off the radar.
I kind of hate that for them too because it was nice. We were getting a little bit more exposure for the HBCU teams in general, and then when it got to bowl season, a little bit more eyes were on some of those teams, especially if they were playing Jackson State. So I do kind of feel for Jackson State University.
Well, I mean, I once covered a game at Alcorn when Steve McNair was a senior. That stadium is a cathedral. I mean, that place is just, I was on the field in the fourth quarter. It was like I was in church. I mean, they were standing up and they were chanting, they were singing. I thought, why would the kid not want to go here? But they got that recognition because of Steve McNair. Now with Sanders gone from Jackson State, I think they're going to go the way of Alcorn because Alcorn doesn't get that anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all interesting stuff, man. I mean, it's gonna be weird to see, interesting, I should say, to see if these larger schools are going to reach out and play some of these smaller schools and kind of spread the wealth a little bit. But let's get back to one of the.
Well, even Mississippi. I mean, I would love to see Ole Miss go to Delta State, a Division II school over in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have been a power in Division II forever. I mean, they've won national championships. If Ole Miss went to Cleveland, Mississippi for a Saturday scrimmage, what would that do for that town?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about the jobs that are affected. So, but getting back to the bigger schools, Steve, Hugh Freeze going into his first A-Day game this weekend. What are some things you'll be looking for?
I'm looking for one thing only, and that's the energy. I watched the A-Day game last year, and I mean, Auburn was just like, okay, well, yeah, here we go. We're just doing this.
Going through the motions.
But I remember, when Hugh Freeze was at Ole Miss watching a Grove Bowl once. And, I mean, I think they pretty much all have the same rule. You don't tackle to the ground. It's pretty much two-hand touch. and I think it was Evan Ingram, the tight end, who ended up playing for the Giants, or I think he's with the Jags now. And, I mean, he caught a pass over the middle, and he got tagged or whatever, and the whistle blew. He sprinted 45 yards to the end zone. And, I mean, that's coaching. I want to see if Auburn has that. If Auburn does not have that, hello 6-6. If Auburn does have that, you know, hey, hello 8 or 9 wins.
No doubt I'll have to get those guys going. How about Pete Golding already having an impact on the Rebels defense with the transfer portal? Do you think that defense has a chance of turning the quarter this year?
Well, I mean, I put out the story. I think it came out this morning. 2 of the guys said the reason I came here was Pete Golding. And it just makes me think, you know, Alabama people, what were you thinking? This guy, A, can recruit, and B, can coach.
Steve, did you see how many points they gave up last year?
Kind of spoiled over there.
But, no, I mean, still, I mean, he can coach. He just, I mean, hey, you can call a scheme, and if it's not executed, you look like the idiot.
Yeah.
So, but, I mean, this guy, especially in recruiting, and like there's a kid from Georgia Tech, Monty Montgomery, I wrote about, and the kid from Louisville, and they said the reason I came here, Pete Golding, because I saw what he did, I saw his schemes, and I think this works for me, and that's going to get me to the NFL.
Well, as long as Monty Montgomery doesn't play scared like he did at Louisville, he should be fine.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, if you go back to our story on the rebelwalk.com, there's a great video of him where he is just ripping it. So it's like, yeah.
I hope so, because he played like Bambi in the forest when it was on fire at Louisville.
Well, he was still second on the team in tackles that year, last year. And by the way, the guy who led the team in tackles, Momo Snogo, an Ole Miss transfer.
Yes, he is.
So, but I like both those kids. I like them in the press conference. I like the way they handle themselves, and I think that they're going to be the kind of guys on the field that can say, "Okay, wait, let's do this, right in the middle of it." So, those players are hard to find, and I think Pete Golding finds them.
You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're on the line right now with Steve Barnes, the senior writer for the rebelwalk.com. Steve, what is the quarterback competition at Ole Miss looking like this spring?
Now, from what I hear, Spencer Sanders has had a little bit of a shoulder issue, so he's been limited. But from what I hear out of Oxford is Jackson Dart, I mean, he has this offense down pat. He knows what he's doing. So I think he's the leader right now in the clubhouse. But everybody's telling me, look out for the puppy. Look out for Walker Howard. Watch out for him. So I think it's going to be like last year where it came down to Luke Altmaier and Jackson Dart in the fall. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing where, we won't know until probably 2 weeks maybe before the season opener. And that's against Mercer, so you can see all three of them against Mercer. But the next week's Tulane, at Tulane. So I think you probably need to make a decision by then.
Steve, give us an update now on Ole Miss baseball, getting deep into the season now.
17-11, 1-8 in the conference. About to be 1-9 because they're getting hammered by Arkansas today. But the bad thing is the ace of the staff, Hunter Elliott, who he was a freshman last year out of Tupelo, and he lit it up in the regional down in Coral Gables. He threw a shutout against Southern Miss in the super regional, and then pitched the final game against Oklahoma that won it all. He pitched 5 innings in the first game, and he won it, but he came out with, quote, forearm tenderness. And so they shut him down right then. He has not played since that day, and that was in mid-February. And trust me, I mean, I've had 2 forearm surgeries. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. I'm looking at a new wrist surgery and a new elbow surgery in the next few weeks. When you hear that elbow or that forearm tightness, that's when you think, yeah, UCL. So I think, he might be looking at Tommy John. With the season going right now the way it is, it'd be kind of nice for him to shut him down and go ahead and fix it.
Hey, Steve, what's your thoughts on the officiating in this postseason?
In basketball?
Yeah, in basketball. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm trying to think of the worst word I could use on radio. Not good. How's
Not
that?
good? I think that'll work. I think we can, the FCC will let us be with that one.
Well, I mean, I worked the Sun Belt Conference tournament here in Pensacola. I did 26 games in 6 days, and I saw some of the stuff that I just thought, what?
Was that the same tournament where you had the 6 players on the floor?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, how can you not count to 6? How does the official score at the table not see that hit the horn? And, well, to the Sun Belt's credit, they sent that officiating crew home. That was it. Boom. You miss that, you're gone.
Well,
but there were a couple of others.
For me, Steve, the officiating across the board. I mean, I know Dave and I have talked about this at length, where officials get a hard life in terms of what they don't ever get a pat on the back for, hey, good game. It's always, you were awful, you're terrible at what you do. Why are you doing this to my team? Blah 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 blah. But I think at all levels, including college, there needs to be some accountability for some of these officials, and there needs to be a way for the media to approach these officials and ask, what were you thinking? Like, what happened on this particular play that changed potentially the outcome of the game, or why did you make this call at this moment, but later on down the road you didn't? And I think until there's that accountability, I don't think you're going to see anything change. And women's college basketball needs change in officiating badly.
Well, the officials at the Sun Belt, they were off limits, so nobody could talk to them. And which I thought was, kind of, yeah, why'd you call that? I mean, you made a great point. I mean, why did you do that? But nobody could talk to them. But there were other calls. There was a guy, and where I was stationed, I was right behind the instant replay monitor, which was very, very cool. I'd never seen that. You have like 7 different angles, and it breaks down the play-by-play, so they could say, yeah, I need to go see play 72. They could tap a key, and there it is. But this guy seemed just like, this is my new toy. And he was just, I think it was 3 times. He said, I want to see if that was a shot clock violation. Well, not only was it not a shot clock violation because the ball was out of the player's hand, it was through the net. and I mean, this guy, I think he just wanted to be on TV. And I saw 2 in the NCAA tournament on TV. One of them, I forgot, it was an early round game. It might have been the first or second, where the guy's got a breakaway, and the guy behind him basically swipes the ball, misses, then tackles him. How is that not a flagrant foul? But no, just a foul. And in the women's championship game, Caitlin Clark with Iowa, she got called for a tech for bouncing the ball behind her back that went out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if she thought, well, there's an official over there, there's a ball boy over there, or I'm just dropping the ball. But she got a tech, and that counted against her personal fouls.
Yeah, that brought her to 4, I believe.
Yeah, it's like, wow. I mean, I just don't know about that. So I was just not really impressed with the officiating in basketball this year.
Not impressed, not enthused at all. Steve, man, I hate it, but we're up against a break right here, so we're going to have to let you go. But let's catch up next week, my friend.
Sounds good, brother.
Awesome. As always, Steve Barnes, senior writer for the RebelWalk.com. That article that he was talking about mentioning Pete Golding is up right now on the RebelWalk.com. And if you're an Ole Miss fan or an SEC fan or a sports fan, go check out the RebelWalk.com. It's a great website. This is the Afternoon Underdogs. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The tradition continues.
That ball is going to be out of here.
America's team plays here.
Bombs away.
The Atlanta Braves are back and making a statement.
Ronald Acuna just clobbered one to left.
Listen to Atlanta Braves baseball in a rich audio experience live on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Here comes the thunder.
Sponsored by Bilberg Kia, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Mid-South Lumber, Stormore Portable Buildings, and Brock Pest Control.
My weather forecast for this afternoon, a blend of sun and clouds around 82 degrees and a south wind about 10 miles per hour. The water temperature in the Gulf, 71. Spotty showers at thunderstorms overnight near 68 degrees. There might be a few more showers over the Easter weekend. Highs generally upper 60s to mid 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. For ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
Take your next adventure in an eco-friendly all-electric Kia EV6 that gives you the movement that inspires. You can live fully charged while saving now and down the road on maintenance and fuel costs. You have to drive it really to believe it. Schedule a test drive today and explore the electrified Kia vehicles at Bilberg Kia. Now offering 3.9% APR for up to 60 months on the purchase of a new 2023 Kia EV6. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology, but with performance that minimizes the impact of our environment. Bilberg Kia is the home of the 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillbergKia.com. We make it easy to switch to EV ownership that gives you the peace of mind you can trust.
Offer from Kia Finance for the purchase of a new 2023 Kia EV6 with $1,837 per month per $1,000 finance for 60 months. Quantities limited. No down payment required. Cannot be combined with other finance offers. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bilberg Kia warranty. See dealer for details. Offer for well-qualified buyers. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 5/1/23.
He's 22, trades Pokemon cards, and has no work ethic.
Look, guys, I know I've been lazy.
Miles Nasty Lashley is part of the Afternoon Underdogs.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
And irresponsible and a few other things I could mention.
Live and local.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
You're home for the Atlanta Braves in Northwest Florida. That's right, it's ESPN Northwest Florida. Atlanta Braves sponsored locally by Bilberg Kia, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Mid-South Lumber, Stormore Portable Buildings, and Brock Pest Control, and so much more tonight. Right after the Afternoon Underdogs, coverage will start at 6 p.m. First pitch at 6:20 tomorrow. Coverage starts at 5:05. First pitch again at 6:20. And then Sunday Night Baseball, it'll be televised by ESPN, but you can listen right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Coverage starting 4:50. First pitch at 6:05. Jared Schuster back on the bump for the Bravos tonight. That'll be a second start of the season. And we've got Sam Peebles, host and creator of the Braves Dugout Podcast, on the line with us. Sam, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic. Always a great time to have you on with us. Great game last night. Orlando Arcia finishing it off with the walk-off in a 2-2 count with 2 outs. I mean, just as baseball as it gets last night. How do you think Vaughn Grissom and Braden Shoemaker are feeling right now after the start, and even Dansby Swanson as well?
Well, I think Vaughn Grissom's probably asking if he can get some reps in left field.
Yeah.
Right, because, I mean, it's pretty evident that they like Orlando Arcia. I like Orlando Arcia. I think a lot of people look at his career numbers and they're not that great, and they wonder why. But when you start looking at his underlying peripherals of once he became an Atlanta Brave, he switched over to what we are starting to call the Atlanta Braves way, which is be patient, wait for a fastball. When a fastball comes, crush it. And that's what Orlando Arcia has switched to, and it's paying dividends. I mean, right now, his expected batting average is in the top 17% of the league. His expected slugging percentage is in the top 21%. His hard hit percentage is in the top 15%. I mean, any way you want to slice it, Orlando Arcia is swinging the bat really well. And he's better defensively than Vaughn Grissom. Now, Braden Shoemaker is superior defensively to both of them. But I think the main thing is once you get past Orlando Arcia, it's not like they have a bunch of depth behind him at the shortstop position. So really, they just need to be ready in case Orlando Arcia gets injured, because I fully believe if Orlando Arcia gets injured, one of them is going to be called up.
How about Spencer Strider, his peripherals? What are you seeing from those? Because you were very, you hit the nail on the head when it came to Ian Anderson, and I kept asking every time. It felt like every week we would have you on. Is he going to turn the corner? Is he going to turn the corner? And you say, well, the peripherals don't show that. What about for Spencer Strider? How are those looking?
Well, so right now, it's only it's a super small sample size. Of only a few innings or whatever, but he only has 11 innings pitched this year, and they're definitely not as elite as they were in 2022 so far. Everything across the board last year, expected batting average against him, expected slugging percentage, expected ERA, were all in the top 4% of the league or better. And this year, he's more so in the top 50%. So he's better than average so far. The only thing that sticks out is he's missing a lot of bats and he's striking out a lot of people. But he's also walking a lot of people, and when they hit the ball, they hit it hard. So it's not as nearly as drastic as an Ian Anderson. Like Ian Anderson was floating like an expected ERA of north of 5, and Spencer Strider so far his expected ERA is 3.81. Now that's good enough. That's not like the 2.39 he had last year. So he's not pitching at an elite level, but it's not like an Ian Anderson level where we really need to worry. Plus, like I said, it's only 11 innings pitched so far.
Hey, Sam, AG here. Hope the campaign's going well, brother. What did you make of Dylan Dodd's debut against that lineup?
What about the moniker? Yeah, the Dodd father, I was going to say, yeah.
Man, that was excellent. I mean, of course, him repeating that performance over and over is probably a slim chance because his expected fielding independent pitching is much higher than his actual ERA. But what we saw from him was very comforting, knowing that the Atlanta Braves are so deep. They got Bryce Elder, Jared Schuster, and all of them just sitting right there in case someone gets hurt. Mike Soroka will hopefully come back. If anything, it was more reassuring that the Atlanta Braves front office might actually know what they're doing when they're drafting these pitchers.
All right, Sam. Hey, this is Caveman Rick. What do you have your thoughts about the new rules and how they might affect the Atlanta Braves?
Well, I think the new rules actually favor the Atlanta Braves, believe it or not, just simply because you've got guys like Ronald Acuna who have elite speed and elite base running skills right in the top of the order. And then they brought in Sean Murphy, who has one of the best pop times we've ever seen. I mean, you saw that one throw he made a few games ago. That was just insane. So people are going to be trying to steal, but they don't want to steal on Sean Murphy. The Braves are set up really well for these new rules. The only downfall is the limiting of the shift is going to hurt the Braves a little bit, but it's going to hurt everybody as far as defensively goes, because Austin Riley, if the ball is hit to him, he feels it very well. But he's not, from his left to his right, he does not have very wide range. And Orlando Arcia definitely does not have the range that Dansby Swanson does. So on the left side of the infield, we're going to see a lot more singles being hit. So that's going to hurt the Braves. But I think overall, I think that the Braves are in a good spot.
You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're on the line with Sam Peebles, creator of the Braves Dugout podcast. He is also a contributor for Fansided, Tomahawk Take, FS, Fansided there, and Battery Power, an author for Battery Power with the Atlanta Braves. Sam, does Jared Schuster bounce back tonight after his kind of rough debut against the Nats?
It's really hard to say because his underlying numbers were terrible, but it's his first major league start. So, how much can you really look into it? I know for a fact that if I was him, I would have had crazy butterflies, and so I'm really hoping that he just kind of went out there. There's a lot of pressure on him. Maybe he got those first-time butterflies out of the way. Now he knows that even though he got sent back down, he still can be brought back up, and so maybe there's not as much pressure. But when you walk 5 guys to striking out only 1, you're not going to win many games. So he's got to stop. He needs to get his control back and not walk those guys. If he pitches like he did in the spring, he'll be just fine. But he's got to get past those yips or jitters or whatever and just focus on his stuff like he had in the spring. And I think the stuff is there. There's a reason he's the number one prospect in the Braves farm system. The stuff is there. He just needs to, get over the nerves, I hope.
Hey, Sam, any complaints or issues with Snitker's lineup so far?
Well, I tend to trust someone that whenever he came in for the Braves, they had the worst offense in the league, and then when he took over, they had the second best offense in the league with a terrible lineup. So the guy obviously knows how to generate offense, but one thing that just really boggles my mind is I'm really into lineup optimization, and a lot of things that it deals with is you want to optimize your lineup to score the most possible, have the highest probability to score the most runs. And the way to do that is you set up your players and put in a position where they can do the most damage. And one way to do that is to set it up with their platoon splits. For example, if you hit a lefty much better than you do a righty, then you move him up in the lineup versus a lefty, and you move him down in the lineup versus a righty. And for whatever reason, he's almost doing it the opposite way with Travis d'Arnaud. Travis d'Arnaud, that he had him in the 8th spot, he went 4 for 5, and then he pushed him down and up to the cleanup spot, and he went 1 for 4 with a single. And it was reverse splits. If you would have done it the other way and put him like you should have, that would have generated more runs. And it's just odd. Like, he's doing just fine in the top of the order with Ronald Acuna, Austin Wright, and Matt Olson. I mean, that's fine. But at the back end of the order, the way he's moving guys around and playing Marcell Ozuna against pitchers that he has no business being in the lineup batting against. Really, my two biggest qualms is put Travis d'Arnaud in his strong points against lefties or righties. Like if he's strong, you put him in a strong spot. If he's weak, you put him lower in the lineup. Same with Marcell Ozuna. If he's weak against a pitcher, don't put him in the lineup. You've got plenty of left fielders that you can put there instead. So his platoon splits is really where he's putting his players at a disadvantage so far, at least a handful of them at a disadvantage as far as platoon splits go.
Does Acuna look more confident in the legs again?
Yes, if you look at his average sprint speed over his entire career, it's back up to his career average. Last year it was down by about a second, mile per hour. And this year it's back up to what it was. So I do think that his legs are back. He's back to full speed. As far as literal speed goes, I think he's just fine.
So, Sam, with the Mets and the Phillies both getting hit by the injury bug, which team do you think will give the Braves a run for their money in the first half of the season?
The Marlins.
I'm gonna as far as across the entire league or just between those two?
Either one. Who do you think they're going to, have the toughest time, I guess, in the standings with, competing with?
Well, I mean, I think the Mets are just more stacked than the Phillies are to begin with. So even with the injuries hitting, the Mets, I mean, they have 6 starters in their rotation that would be in anyone's rotation. So even with Verlander and Scherzer, Scherzer underperforming, Verlander being hurt, they're still so deep in their rotation. I think the Mets are astronomically better than the Phillies, and the Phillies went to the World Series last year. They're not a bad team by any means, but on paper the Mets are just deeper and they're a better team.
Both of those teams will keep spending too if they need to.
That's right. When are they going to learn it's done in the draft and player development? Who knew that?
Who knew that? Sam, what about who's been more surprising to you? The San Diego Padres, who spent a lot of money and have a record right now of 3-4, and I know, of course, small sample size, very early in the season, or the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have a 12-7 lead on the White Sox right now and a record of 4-2, about to move on over to 5-2.
Good point on the small sample size, because that's a very good caveat. But looking at the two, I would say because the Pirates, played the Reds, I think, and the Padres playing the Diamondbacks and the Rockies, who both have terrible teams, it's more surprising to me, honestly, that the Padres are where they're at, just simply because of the schedule that they played. They should have ran away with that schedule. Not the Braves, obviously, but they should have performed much better against the Rockies and the Diamondbacks, especially early in the year when everyone's fresh. I know they don't have Tatis Jr. back yet, but still, I mean, that lineup is stacked. They should have scored a lot more runs.
Well, shouldn't a lot of these guys actually be kind of like in form because of the World Baseball Classic already?
Yeah, that too. Yeah, a lot of players on the Padres did play in the World Baseball Classic.
So that's not really a great excuse for those guys.
Right. Yeah, the Padres are kind of shocking me, but that's fine. I mean, when you see, I don't know. It's when you're a Braves fan, you kind of like want big spenders to fail, you know. But it's going to be. I'm just hoping for an interesting season with the new season. I mean, with the new schedule format, to where you're going to be playing division rivals less often and spreading your games across the league. It's going to be a very interesting season.
Sam, if Tatis is suspended for whatever the first half of the season, it doesn't make sense to me that he still gets to play in the MLB system if it is in the minor leagues that he's in AAA. Saw that pitcher was tweeting about him the other night, him showboating his home run, and that brought to my attention that he was playing AAA. That makes no sense to me if he's suspended from the game.
Well, I think the suspension, honestly, is more so to take away his pay more than anything else. So he's playing in the minor leagues for free. But yeah, that is kind of odd. Me personally, if I was the commissioner, I would not allow it because you want your fans to have good faith in you, you know. And if you're truly going to say that a player is suspended because they can't use, you know, steroids, then they can't play because they use steroids. It's one or the other. Don't, you know, why even have this controversy in the first place?
Well, plus, wouldn't it be kind of unfair? I mean, then, like, he gets to come right back into, you know, the league and, like, without skipping a beat because he's been playing AAA, so it's really not that much of a detriment to the team after all, or the player in a sense. And if he was coming off of, you know, just sitting on the couch being cold, then he'd have to warm back up, and it'd be more of a detriment to the team, hence more of a punishment for him and the team.
Right. Yes, definitely. There'd be a much bigger difference if that was the case.
Who's been a player outside of the Atlanta Braves or a non-Brave who's been on an unexpected hot streak to start the season?
Adam Duvall.
Oh, former Brave from?
Yeah, he's been absolutely crushing it for the Boston Red Sox, and it's not just a home run. Like across the board, he's been killing it. That was the one thing when he was on the Braves. He was the definition of an all-or-nothing player. Like, his on-base percentage was extremely low. He hit a home run or didn't get on base. And that's not been the case so far this season. And I got to be honest with you, I'm happy for him. I'm a big Adam Duvall fan, even though I know that he was a bit overrated on the Braves. A big Adam Duvall fan, and I hope the best for him, except for when he plays against the Braves.
Yeah, I'm a big Adam Duvall fan. He's from my hometown as well. So
Duvall!
Yeah.
All right. Sam, let's see here. Angels getting off to a decent start of 4-2. Do you think Ohtani is going to be an Angel after the trade deadline?
I've always had my suspicions that he would be, because I think first of all, the Angels are a terribly run organization, so they would probably sit back. Yeah, they'd sit back and try to get more than they actually can, even if Ohtani's worth it. I don't think any team is going to pay what Ohtani's worth in the first place, because it would absolutely destroy their farm system or their major league club for years to come. And so for half of a season. So I didn't foresee him leaving anyways. So if they can continue to be in playoff contention and bring in the ticket sales from Ohtani, I don't see a future for them trading Ohtani. I just don't see it.
Ooh, I love it, man. Hey, Sam, we've got to run to a break as always. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time.
Absolutely. Go Braves.
Go Braves. That's Sam Peebles. He is the creator of the Braves Dugout podcast, and he just had an episode drop 2 days ago, yesterday or the day before. So make sure you go over, check out Sam Peebles. You can find him on Twitter at @SPeeblesSports or Facebook, Sam Peebles. We're going to run to a break. When we get back, it'll be time for the Barbaritos local updates.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Atlanta Braves play here.
Head first slide to RBI triple. The Atlanta Braves won their season home opener with a walk-off. And tonight, it's Game 2. Braves, Padres. Coverage starts at 6 on your home for the Atlanta Braves.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
My weather forecast for this afternoon, a blend of sun and clouds around 80, 82 degrees, and a south wind about 10 miles per hour. The water temperature in the Gulf, 71. Spotty showers at thunderstorms overnight near 68 degrees. There might be a few more showers over the Easter weekend. Highs generally upper 60s to mid 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. For ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
At Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, you can find all the necessary items for an unforgettable fishing experience. From pin rods and reels to the best hand-tied rigs in Florida, we have it all. With the help of our friendly and knowledgeable staff, you can be sure that you have the right gear to make that big catch. Come experience a great local bait and tackle shop located directly off 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach, located just 5 miles west of Pier Park.
Spring is a wonderful time of the year. It's a new beginning for flowers, butterflies, and countless insects that pollinate and help God's wonderful plant kingdom come to life. That boot store reminds you it can also be a new beginning for you too. On April 9th, we celebrate Easter and a risen Savior. Joe reminds you to keep Jesus in your heart this Easter and always. That boot store open Tuesday through Thursday, 9 till 5, and Friday and Saturday, 9 till 5:30. Next to Bill Bird Kia on 15th Street.
From the Florida Panama line to the Gulf of Mexico, from the Upper Grand Lagoon to McKenzie Park, we are live and local.
Whether you like it or not, you have a gift.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs, live from the Rib Crib Radio Room, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Are you ready? Oh, is you ready? Ready? You say you ready? Oh,
welcome back
is you ready?
to ESPN Northwest Florida's Afternoon Underdogs, 104.3 in Panama City, 102.1 in Mariana, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes, along with AG, Caveman Rick, Miles Lashley. What you got?
Quick PSA out there with Easter being this weekend, kids. Eggs are on a shortage right now, and they're extremely expensive. When those parents and grandparents of yours hide those eggs in the yard this weekend, you better find those damn things, because those things cost a lot of money. So get on your
real plastic ones might be cheaper than real ones.
Who's using real eggs?
I don't know. People still do, but I'm just saying, with that going on out there, people, find your eggs. Don't let them go to waste.
Going into an event where they're bringing a helicopter and dropping the eggs onto a football field.
That could get dangerous, Joe.
That could get dangerous.
Hope they're not bold.
As a kid, do you want a plastic egg or do you want a real egg?
Plastic. I want the candy.
Yeah, plastic. People used to hide money in them too sometimes.
Yeah.
You could open one up, have a $20 bill or something.
The gold one with the dollar bill in it.
There you go.
Or the gold coins. You remember those? With all their gold coins?
The chocolate coin where you just eat all the wrappers and stuff.
No, like real gold. I would rather
we had
have
like
that one.
We had like the chocolate coins that were wrapped in gold. You just throw the whole thing in your mouth.
We'll have to talk to Todd.
Your whole childhood was wrapped in gold, wasn't it, Miles?
We'll have to talk to Todd and Bill over at PCB Hobby about hiding some gold coins and some some eggs.
There you go. Those could be some very valuable gold coins. This is your local high school sports spotlight, brought to you by Barbaritos, food, community, and people. Visit Barbaritos on 23rd Street. Tell them the Underdogs sent you. Coach Olds earlier texted in, great regional weightlifting meet today at Port St. Joe. There was a lot of local young men who are heading to state next week. He sent me a Google Docs of what's all going on, and that I'm going to have to look at that over the weekend and be able to break it down because it is a lot, but that is awesome. Right now, the top 10, Bozeman with 27 points is in is in first place. Weewall coming in with 24 points, tied with Bluntstown and Baker. That's second, third, and fourth. PSJ coming in with 22 points in fifth. Mariana with 20 points in sixth. Holmes County with 14 points in seventh. Northview with 13 points in eighth. Florida High with 12 points in ninth. And Rutherford's got 9 points in 10th place. JUCO baseball, Chipola takes down Tallahassee 4-2. Northwest Florida over Pensacola by 3, 8-5. And in JUCO softball, Northwest Florida double dips Gulf Coast and the Commodores 10-7 in game 1, 11-1 in game 2. And Pensacola splits with Chipola 4-2 in the first game and 8-1 in Chipola's favor in game 2. Who wants high school baseball?
I'll go. Weewah Hitchcock takes out Katandale 9-10. I'm sorry, Katanale takes down Weewa 10-9. My bad.
The name's so fun to say sometimes. You get a little dyslexic, baby.
Rocky Bayou, man, they put a whooping on Athelia Christian, 17-3. Mariana loses a close one to Freeport, 2-1. Jackson loses a one 3-11. Port St. Joe. Bethlehem 0, Arnold 4, and then you got Rutherford whooping on Vernon 11-0. And how about Adam doing softball?
Yeah, in high school softball, Chipley takes down Malone 16-0 with a shellacking. Destin over Laurel Hill 4-3. Weewa taking down North Bay Haven 5-4. Alpha all over Poplar Springs 19-0. Franklin all over Bluntstown 16-1. Man, there's some blowouts going on.
Yeah, what's in the water?
Right, Vernon 19-2 over Rutherford. Close one here. Walton 6, Whitney Young 5. Arnold taking down Bay 13-0, and Paxton over Baker 3-2. Bozeman defeats Mosley 6-0. Wakulla takes down Port St. Joe 9-3. Freeport 6, Gratesville 2. Niceville 13 to Crestviews 4 runs. And Mariana, again, all over Monroe, 14-0.
And that'll wrap up our blowouts there in softball. The North Bay Haven girls lacrosse team won the program's first 2 games ever this season. They went 0-13 in 2.5 seasons. The Lady Bucks earned their first win over Navarre, the team that they lost to in the season opener. The Bucks then got another win, propelling them into the postseason. In their first playoff appearance, North Bay Haven is going to be taking on 8-3 powerhouse South Walton. That'll be this next coming Monday, April 10th.
We got to give them some more games. 0-13 in 2.5 seasons?
I wonder if that's more or less because the lack of other teams that play lacrosse.
We need to get that lacrosse scene.
Well, that's also
alive and kicking here.
It's kind of like hockey, right? It's outside of the guests, but
it's kind of expensive. You grow out of it kind of quick.
Yeah.
And
so I think it is something that can be done, no doubt about it. But it'll take a little bit of time.
Yeah, no, but again, this isn't a judgment on my part.
No, 100%.
Let's get these girls out there playing some more.
Yeah, and I don't know what the traditional games in a season is for lacrosse, but still very awesome that they're getting this going, and then hopefully they can be a pioneer for the rest of Bay County in lacrosse. What you got, Miles?
Yeah, I was reading this some stuff about Sam Bennett, the amateur golfer, who's in second place right now. He's 23 and goes to Texas A&M, but after in the press conference and all that stuff, he said, I mean, Ridgewood, the course where he played the U.S. Amateur Championship, he said that course is harder than the Masters. And then they also asked him if he thinks he can chase down Brooks Koepka and win the Masters. He said he knows he can because his golf is good enough.
All right.
And he's never taken a lesson in his life.
Strong words. We'll have more about the Masters here in just a few moments. Miles, get your beat ready so that we can get into your scoreboard update here. Rutherford football standouts and twin brothers Bryson and Keaton Shermer signed with North Carolina Wesleyan University yesterday morning. They led the Rams on both sides of the ball last year, and they also wrestled at Rutherford. And if you ask many coaches, especially Coach Siegel, if you're a wrestler who plays football, you're going to be in pretty good shape. And both of them qualified for the state championship meet. So pretty awesome stuff there. Congratulations to Bryson and Keaton Shermer. Now to Miles with his files on the update on the Masters scoreboard.
Brooks Koepka 12 under. John Rahm 9 under. Brooks Koepka leading 12 under. John Rahm second 9 under. Sam Bennett, amateur, 8 under. Then Colin Morikawa, 6 under. Tied for fourth with Victor Hovland, who's also 6 under. Jason Day had a pretty big day. Came up a little bit. Now he's back where he started the day, 5 under. Sam Burns, 5 under. Jordan Spieth, 5 under. Cam Young, 5 under. And then Gary Woodland, and then Phil Mickelson making a little push, 4 under.
Phil Mickelson sitting at 4 under.
For him.
I saw that he was moving up the leaderboard, but I didn't know it was that much. What did Tiger end up? I know he was 2 over. Is he still 2 over?
I don't know, but I did see some wanted posters of Greg Norman because that tree fell down at the course, and they want to find out who did it.
Is that not wild, though? Because I've seen some other videos on Twitter now, a couple of them looking like they were pretty close to landing on people, but no injuries. I mean, what a wild situation over there.
That'd be my lottery ticket, yo.
Yeah. Well, they've postponed play for today. right?
Yeah, they're starting at 8 a.m.
trees.
tomorrow.
Because of the trees. So
So
now
Tiger
they're-
might not have even finished.
No,
then.
last I saw he was 2 over. His cut line right now is around 6 over.
Okay, so he's good.
So he's got a good chance of making 23 straight years. For the
Wow.
Masters. How impressive is that? Just add to his laundry list
Mm-hmm.
of accomplishments. But now you're going into a Saturday Masters, which was already supposed to be just awful weather. Now you're adding,
Another
completion of a Friday round.
Yeah.
So, you're going to see a Saturday. I think it's going to be really, really sloppy. If they get it in, it's going to be really, really sloppy.
We could be
and
watching
you're going to
this.
see scores really start. I think you're going to start seeing some leaders really coming back to the rest of the field.
Those
So
trees falling
Sunday
could
should be really
some
interesting.
foreshadowing. You got trees collapsing. Tiger Woods collapsing. Potentially. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
That's what sucked about today was, Brooks Koepka, a lot of people don't like him. I like his golf. I'm not the biggest fan of him as a person. But, he got to go out there in the sun this morning, shoot his whole round, go up 5 on the leaders that he was tied with, go up 5 strokes, and he's in the clubhouse all day while they're out there playing the rain and didn't get to complete their rounds.
Well, that's just a live type thing, man. They only play 3 rounds anyways. They all play at the same time.
So he'll be done after tomorrow.
Right.
Which tree fell over? Was it Eisenhower, perhaps?
No, that tree that tree's been gone for a while, but that's a way to tie in
There will
the
definitely
tribute
I pay
yesterday.
attention to the show.
There will be a marker where that tree fell down, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, for at least for a little
Put a
while,
plaque
because
there.
the dirt is going to be.
I think they have it looking spotless by tomorrow. They're out there right now working in it. I guarantee it.
So you don't
chopping
think
that tree
that
up.
no one will be? Yeah, but what
They'll
about
put
the
sod
imprint?
over it.
Yeah,
They'll
but
cover it up.
I just don't think that you can.
Tomorrow, if they can play it all
you'd be
tomorrow, and
surprised
even if not
if they
Sunday,
do it.
they will make it
With
look
the amount
perfect.
of money
Yeah.
and the manpower that they have, they could get a lot done in a short while.
That's fair, but only if the weather subsides long enough for them to
they'll
actually
stick
get
them out there in lightning. They don't care.
Yeah.
They're going to make that happen. There's going to be guys putting their life on the line. Probably.
I myself personally, I want to see like a little bit of the imprint.
It fell on the 16th, like over on the 16th, right in front of the tee box, I think.
Yeah. I'm sure there were some other ones that fell that's not directly on the course as well that were in front. No, I saw on Twitter.
Yeah, there was multiple trees that fell.
Look, when it's a tree's time to go, it's a tree's time to go. The wind was a little too strong. Rest in peace.
And other news, is there anything else from the Masters? Anything else from the Masters? All right, Travis Kelce threw out the first pitch for the Cleveland Guardians today.
Worse than 50 cents.
Was he trying to channel his inner Rob Gronkowski or something? What was going on?
How about his concert he's throwing during the draft? Did you guys hear about that?
I did hear about
and see,
that.
What's kind of
But that's
going to
be awesome, though.
But no, it's not, though. He's doing it on Friday, man. It should be about the kids at the draft. Have it like on Wednesday. It's like a preemptive party before the draft starts.
But what if they mess up that night before the draft and get arrested
but
or
you're
something?
taking eyes and bodies away that might be at the draft to watch.
But you might be
your
bringing
concert.
other eyes because it's on the not so popular day
I don't
because
know.
Thursday is the first round.
I think do it like on Wednesday. I do it at the
And
start.
so no one's going to watch it?
No, people would on Wednesday because people are already going to be there, But like I said, Friday you're there for the draft, right?
As long as Jackson Mahomes isn't there, I'll watch.
Yeah. What if Jackson Mahomes is putting the concert on? If it's a little TikTok, him, Juju,
it's
Smith,
supposed to be what they say, Machine Gun Kelly and somebody else.
Oh, MGK is doing it?
Yeah, somebody. I can't think of the other person they said.
DJ Diesel.
If MGK is there's no Megan Fox. There's no reason to watch, right?
I don't know. There's two different types of music that MGK put out, and some of his earlier stuff I was a fan of, and then as we got pretty much once he got bodied, that's by Eminem. I like that genre of music, that like kind of pop punk type deal. I just don't know how I feel about him doing that type of music.
You asked no more from the Masters, but I do have one thing.
Oh, we're back to the Masters.
Who do you have winning the Masters? But we're going into Thursday. Who did you have winning it?
Who did I have winning the? I think I was going with the.
Will
Zalatoris, right? Scheffler.
No,
That's
Scheffler.
why I had going for the double.
Scheffler. But I would love to see a live guy win.
I had John Rahm, like the smart man I am.
Okay, I had Xander Schauffele.
Okay,
who was still in the running.
All right, where's Scheffler sitting at right now?
Scheffler's two under.
He had a pretty bad day.
He was 3 over last I saw.
And I have been.
Oh, he's 2 over?
No. He was 2 under, but he was 3 under on the day.
Gotcha.
Or 3 over on the day.
But Scheffler's personality has come out this weekend. He's had a lot, pretty bad shots yesterday and today, and today it really came out. Threw his putter up in the air. see him yell at himself, all that kind of stuff. Don't know what's gotten into him and where his golf game went.
Well, sometimes, golf is that type of game where
100.
you can look like your
He's
same
probably
old,
got
same
a lot
self.
of big sponsors and stuff, a lot of pressure, people counting on him to have a good showing and
that's
winning.
exactly what I'm saying, though. But you can have all of that,
right?
Yeah, but you can have all of that, and the things start falling apart on you in the golf course.
Be the fourth time somebody went back to back? Would that be?
The last person to do it was Tiger.
That's what I'm saying. I think he was third, right? So this would be the fourth.
That's what I'm saying.
Imagine.
Rory shot 5 over, which is ridiculous.
I thought he was going to do pretty good because of the crappy weather and him playing overseas, like over in England and Scotland, where it's always crappy weather. So it'd be like Tuesday for him, like no different than any other day.
Did you watch the Netflix series?
Full Swing? I've got probably 2 or 3 episodes left to go.
Really, really well done.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it.
Beautiful documentary.
I loved it, man. I always try to save me an episode or 2 from these famous documentaries so that way then I'm like, well, I'll just rewatch the whole thing because like Greeny said, you need to know your sports history. That is paramount. What a fun day it's been here on the Afternoon Underdogs. What a fun week. We'll be back Monday. We're going to have Drew Benton, who is a fisher. He right here out of Panama City. He competed in the Bassmaster Classic. We'll have Drew Benton on the line with us 5 o'clock. We'll have PCB Hobby owner Todd Mueller in with us at 5:20, and we'll go around the track with RJ Starcevic at 4:20. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Remember the reason for the season. Happy Easter, all of you. Happy Good Friday to you as well.
Been a great Friday today, guys.
Stay safe. Thoughts and prayers with the Coach James Hell family. We're going to be back Monday, Coach James Hell Show at 7.
ESPN Northwest Florida presents
Wrestling Against Cancer, number 8.
FC Premier Professional Wrestling with the American Machine, Chief Little Bear, Mr. 850, and